Hello, world. This is a new podcast. I am your host, Michael, and I'm here with two other great patriots. One is a Romanian patriot and senator, Andrei Drlau, and one is a Romanian patriot, but also a United States patriot. Two great men. So, again, on one side we have Mr. Andrei Drlau. He's a he was just elected senator for the second time, so he's re-elected as senator in the Senate of Romania. He was elected as a senator of Alba, whereas before he was a senator of Bucharest, the capital. He's also a doctor in theology. Theology is his field, which he masters very well. He's a writer. He wrote many books. He has all the books on his website. The website is in the description. You can find them out there. And on the other side, here we have Ron Lair, as I said, an American patriot. He lives in Romania, and I just want to let's find out, why does a former U.S. general major lives in Romania?
That's correct. I spent 22 years in the U.S. Army as a commissioned officer. I learned leadership when Ronald Reagan was president.
You know military history, but you also know political decisions and geopolitics, because this is what you were doing in the commandment, right?
That's correct. I served as a combat commander and on a general staff.
So Major Ronald E. Lair combines profound academic leadership knowledge with years of practical experience in often very challenging situations. A graduate of the U.S. Army War College, he studied criminology and sociology, was a lecturer at several U.S. universities, and learned to make leadership decisions under extreme pressure as a commander in the U.S. Army during operations Desert Storm, Iraqi Freedom, and Enduring Freedom. Oh, that's a whole of a presentation. I never talked with someone this high in the U.S. Army, so we are very happy to have here two great patriots. Again, we have some geopolitical great subjects of discussions, but first, let's see why does an American retired major, why would he live in Romania? You live in Brasov, right?
That's correct. I'm at home right now in beautiful Brasov.
How did you make the decision to move?
When I was looking for a place to retire, I really wanted to, I had a small child, so I wanted to raise my son in a very pure, traditional, and conservative environment. I didn't want him going to school and learning about woke ideology or trans ideology, things like that. I just wanted him to be around people who respected their faith, respected their tradition, and had a true heritage. And I found it in Romania. The people make this country. This country is so great because of its people, and that's why we're here to support the conservative candidate for president, because this is something that should remain in Romania. Someone who serves the people. Romania does not need another politician. They need public servants like my dear friend, the senator.
Well, that's great to see that some Americans think like that. But still, what's the best in the Romanian people? You said something about the faith, right? Our faith in God.
Absolutely.
Is it also about how we behave, or?
Absolutely. Romanians, since I've been here for the past 6 or 7 years, we've run into some problems. There are different cultural differences and language barriers, but the Romanian people are so helpful and so willing to give that we've never had to face a challenge alone. And the community is so tightly knit that, there's always a smiling face to see. And it's like, this is paradise to my family.
Like old women who would give you enough food. Our grandmothers are great women indeed, especially. Yeah, I know you a bit because I live in the same city as you.
Mr. President, domnul Simion,
Oh, we have the
facem un podcast cu un american pentru a-l sprijini pe Călin Georgescu. Vreți să intrați?
we have George Simeon.
Bine, mulțumesc.
Okay,
Yes,
let's.
it was just it was a very short interruption because our president, the president of our party, Mr. George Simion, turned out he came to see the Senate here. We're on the offices of the Senate, and he said hello. He was in a rush, but like I said, this podcast is in support of Călin Georgescu because on Sunday we have elections, and it's interesting to have three supporters of the conservative movement, of the Christian sovereignist movement here in Romania. We have an American supporter, a conservative, a Christian, a devout Christian, Ron and his whole family. Ron, you're a Christian and your family is Christian. And
Absolutely.
it's so interesting that you chose to live in Romania because you found life in the States has become too affected by neo-Marxist, left-wing, progressist LGBT movement and all this political correctness that is now present in every campus, university campus in America. So
It
this
affects
has
daily life.
become it affects your life, it affects the citizens, it affects the children, the young people, the students. So uh, the discussion was about the new president America has, Donald Trump, his Christian orientation, his Christian policies, his conservative and um, traditionalist political position. And we hope the same will happen in Romania this Sunday. We hope Romania will also have a traditional Christian conservative president, a sovereignist president. If America first is the slogan of Donald Trump, make America great again, put America first, we hope that our president will be sorry, a man like Călin Georgescu who should put Romania first and make Romania great again, make Europe great again, because right now the whole of Europe is affected by this terrible ideology which is called political correctness, and by this globalist virus, this movement which is trying to wipe out the nations, is trying to eradicate the identity of the European peoples, European nations, and to make a homogeneous, uniform society all over Europe um, by instating a kind of European superstate instead of the European Union made of nations, the Europe of nations that you remember Charles de Gaulle talked about. So if Brussels today, the European Commission is trying to promote this idea of a European superstate, which should have all the prerogatives of a sovereign state. This is paradoxical. The European Union, European Commission is fighting nationalism, is fighting the nations, the nation member states, and is trying and is opposing the nation sovereign states as member states of European Union. So they don't agree with European member states as being nation states. They don't like that. They want the nation state to disappear. And
Their main
however,
goal is
they
open
want.
borders. That's their main
Sorry?
goal. The globalist
Yeah,
main goal is to have open borders and
open
to
borders. They want
destroy
exactly,
all the different heritages and all the different traditions of each member state so that they can have complete open borders, just erase borders and just have,
exactly,
you know, every time I hear a European politician say the phrase European values, I get angry because there's no such thing. There are no European values. Romania does not have the same values as France. These are different cultures, different peoples, and as you said, Senator, the globalists are now trying to erase all these borders so that everyone can, as you said, become a homogeneous group and have nothing to have pride in, so that they can control the entire population.
exactly. They want to erase this identity. They don't like national identity and national sovereignty of the member states, but they want to have a to have a European sovereign superstate. They insist on having sovereignty at the European level. They want to have sovereign superstate. They want to have sovereignty and all the prerogatives of a state, but belonging to the organization called European Union. So they want to transfer sovereignty from the member states to the European Union as a whole. Well, this is for us unacceptable, and we want to maintain our nation state, our identity, our language, our tradition, our culture, our faith, our religion. So this kind of uniformizing superstate, they want to call it the United States of Europe. Well, it's not the Europe that we want. We want to say very clearly we want to be in the European Union. It's okay to be in the European Union, and we want to stay in NATO. We don't want to change that, but we want to stay in a Europe of nations. We are not extremists. We are in favor of European Union of nations. The Europe of nations is fine. Each member state maintaining its own sovereignty, its own national identity and specific features and culture. So what we disagree with is this kind of indistinguishable conglomerate that they want to create. The European Commission of Ursula von der Leyen is actively promoting this idea, this concept, and we, the sovereignist party named Our, we oppose that. And we
Yeah,
hope
and
Călin Georgescu will do the same, will promote
absolutely.
this. I mean, we know that he will promote the nation state and the national identity in a European Union of nations. And the same goes for Trump. And now, Ron, let me ask you about Donald Trump and his cabinet, because we know his conservative orientation. What about the members of his cabinet, Ron?
Well,
By the way,
from
I hear that he's appointing um, people like Marco Rubio as Secretary of State,
Pam
appointed
Bondi,
Pete Hegseth, Pam Bondi as the Attorney General, also Brooke Rollins, Lori Chavez, Robert Kennedy Jr. as Secretary of Health, and
Tulsi Gabbard,
also yes, Tulsi Gabbard. We also have here John Radcliffe, Jamison Greer, even the head of the FBI, the head of the CIA have been recently appointed. John Radcliffe is is going to be appointed director of the CIA. So, what about these people, Ron? What do you think this announces for the for the American people and for the Romanian people as well? What would be the implications of the Trump administration with these people forming his cabinet?
let me first start by addressing the relationship between Romania and the United States. And if I could add to what you were saying about the European superstate, right now, and in the past, Ursula von der Leyen has interfered with sovereign states' constitutions, and that's something that the European Union was never designed to do. Each country should be allowed to have its own constitution made up by its own people to serve their nation. Just like the U.S. Constitution only serves the U.S., each constitution in Europe should be its own constitution and should be interfered with. As far as the relationship between Romania and the United States has sent a clear and resounding message to Washington that they're finished with the woke ideology, the policies of the Bidens, the Obamas, the Harrises. They don't want it anymore. That the attack on Christianity is not going to be tolerated anymore. Kamala Harris told 2 Christians who went to her rally and said, Christ is king. She said to them, you're at the wrong rally. What kind of person would want to elect someone who persecutes Christians like that? And the American people have sent a clear message now to Washington, not only through the election of President Trump, but the maintaining of the House of Representatives, and they took control of the Senate, all in one election. So Donald Trump has at least a minimum of 2 years to create and have his policies going through with little or no resistance. And this major shift to the right in the U.S. is the little ripple effect is affecting the rest of the world. You see a conservative movement in Italy. You see conservative movements in Europe growing and growing and growing. If Romania takes a step backwards and elects a blatant globalist leftist, it's going to greatly affect the relationship, the wonderful relationship that Romania has with the United States in an incredibly negative way. Pam Bondi is an ultra-conservative. She was the Attorney General of Florida when, during the 2000 election, when George W. Bush edged out Al Gore, thankfully, for President of the United States. She has a very conservative record, and she's a very solid conservative. Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida, he's the son of Cuban immigrants. Now, what better story to tell about the United States than an immigrant was born in America to immigrant parents that came from nothing and is now sitting in the U.S. Senate. I mean, that's a wonderful story. And so, these, very solid conservative people are going to change the face of the country and the United States, and it's going to affect the rest of the world. So, Georgescu, I hope I pronounced that correctly. That's why I kept saying conservative candidate for president, because I'm not very good with the Romanian language, and I do apologize for that.
Fine with it.
But people need to understand that nationalist does not mean negative. That a nationalist is not a terrible person or an extremist. It just means they have, faith in their culture, their heritage. Romania, having such a difficult history, should know better than to elect another far left radical.
And would you say it's Christian nationalism, right? Because we talked about Christ is King, and I think one of the greatest allies of the United States, it used to be Poland, right? Which had in its constitution, it has the king, that Poland is also a kingdom, and the king of Poland is Jesus Christ. This was in 2016. So yes, I think Romania is one of the greatest things about Romania, as you said. is that we are a Christian country. Now we will have a more Christian administration of America. And I think this is the battle between Christians, nationalists, and they are interrelated because if you're a Christian, you love your country, right? You have to love your country, and versus the globalists.
I'll even put it simpler than that. It's good versus evil. That's what it is. I mean, it's just that simple. It's good versus evil. You have people on the left, like Soros, like this candidate for president in Romania, that want to do away with borders, want to completely silence anyone who has any nationalist views, any conservative views, and you put a muzzle on them and make sure that they're sent to re-education camps or whatever their plans are.
What will happen with the NGOs who are funded by Soros here in Eastern Europe? Because that's a huge deal.
Well, from what I've learned, he's already handed over the reins to his son Jeremy, I believe, and they've already cut staff. But I don't trust anyone with the last name Soros. I'm sorry, I don't. So it's highly likely that because George Soros changed his tactics in the United States, he stopped trying to work from a top-down approach to a bottom-up. So he was putting his money into local elections, like prosecutors, school board, sheriff, chiefs of police, people that affect your life on a daily basis, not your senator. So now we have in the United States prosecutors that don't want to prosecute crime, sheriffs and chiefs of police that don't want to enforce the law, judges that don't want to hand down proper sentences to people who, I mean, literally need to be in prison. So it's getting a little chaotic with the NGOs, and we'll just have to see what George Soros' son does.
But as the presidency is changing right now with Donald Trump, do you think that there will be a cultural realignment in Europe, especially in Eastern Europe? This is what is interesting for us.
That's exactly what I'm hoping and promoting. Is it the conservatives, especially in Eastern Europe, having gone through what they did for 5-6 decades,
like Viktor Orban, right? And
absolutely, Viktor Orban was the first world leader to congratulate Donald Trump on his victory on X, was formerly Twitter. But the conservative nationalist approach for Eastern Europe, especially, having escaped communism a few decades ago, you can only elect yourself into socialism once. Then you have to fight your way out. So, and that's what the goal of these globalists is more or less socialism, making sure that each member state's borders are erased and that everyone stays in lockstep with the leftist ideology. And that's why it's so important to elect a conservative, especially as a president. So, a Christian and a nationalist for Romania is a great thing for this time. Because with the United States taking its far right turn, yes, sir.
Can I ask you, J.D. Vance, the vice president elected, appointed, he was in the Marine Corps of the United States.
Yes, he's a veteran.
He was a senator for Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And what does this mean, this appointment and all the others, for the war in Ukraine, for the relationship with Eastern Europe? What do you think this whole new team of Donald Trump will mean for the ending of the war in Ukraine? Will there be, do you think, any changes in respect to American politics vis-a-vis Romania and and Eastern Europe? I will ask you also because some people in Romania have already said that choosing between Călin Georgescu as president and his rival, the other one, will mean choosing between America and Europe, between Washington and Brussels, between conservative America under Donald Trump and Trump administration, and progressist Brussels, Ursula von der Leyen Commission, and the whole thing, LGBT, pro-abortion, um, gay rights, and all this movement on the other hand. So, how does this look for, once again, for the the ending of the war in Ukraine, for peace in Ukraine, because we all want peace, and for the future of Europe? Do we have to choose between Washington and Brussels, do you think, in this context?
In a sense, yes. Let me first congratulate J.D. Vance as a fellow veteran. Anyone, myself, Vice President Vance, anyone who's been in combat, anyone who's been to war, absolutely hates war. We don't want anything to do with it. We want it over, to end. That's the only desire we have, because it is the number one most horrible experience that you could ever go through. So Donald Trump and J.D. Vance they're going to put an end to this war on the doorstep of Romania. And I was speaking to some friends, and they were, in a non-offensive way, they're saying, I don't care what's going on in America. I'm worried about what's going on north, on the border of my country. And I can relate to that. And all I can do is say to them that if you want peace, if you want a lasting effect of ending wars and not starting them, and not allowing countries to bomb each other, fire missiles into each other's territories, then the thing to do is elect people who either have been or just absolutely hate the idea of war, period. And Donald Trump, say what you want about the man. If for 4 years there were no conflicts, for 4 straight years during Donald Trump's first administration, there were no conflicts around the world. And he's committed to putting an end to the war in Ukraine, and by negotiation, not by the battlefield. So he's already committed to working with both Russia and Ukraine to put an end to this horrible situation right on the border of Romania. So again, the leftists want to keep funding the war machine. Send more money, billions more, hundreds of millions more missiles, more ammunition. The conservatives in the United States just want it over. No more money, no more weapons. You get nothing. Sit down at a table and hammer this out to where the tanks, the fighting vehicles, the artillery, all gets put away, and everybody goes home and rebuilds.
I think that's a great message that the Ukrainians can return back to Ukraine once it's all over. We want it all over because it's a disaster for so much time. And if it doesn't, let's say to the people, if it doesn't end in a peace right now, and we have more years of war, I think a whole generation of people in Ukraine will be, um, let's say, Ukraine doesn't have a future if it doesn't make peace, right?
It's a war of attrition, and it's not benefiting either side at this point. It's just killing more people, killing more people, killing more people.
Like the
And again,
First World War was, right? Because you are very good at military history.
yes, and speaking from a person that's been in combat, has seen combat in 2 separate conflicts, it's just something that you don't want to experience at all. And I understand how the Romanians feel about I don't care what's going on in the United States. This is what I want done. Well, the United States can be a very, very powerful ally in helping achieve that goal. But with the right person running the country, not a far leftist that wants to fund more fighting in Ukraine. It's going to have to be a conservative nationalist that believes in peace and just a Christian that wants to end the conflict, not on the battlefield, at the negotiation table.
Mr. Senator, you're on mute. You're muted.
Ron, you have touched upon a very important topic. But first, I want to say my father was a veteran in World War II, and I grew up with horror stories about the war. So he
Absolutely.
told me he fell a prisoner in Stalingrad. So he was on the Eastern Front. He was fighting the Soviets, and he saw incredible atrocities, and I grew up with his stories about what he saw in the war. So, indeed, you're right. Any veteran, anyone who has been in combat, is totally against war, like you mentioned, Vance, and like yourself. And the Romanian people want peace. Indeed, this is the message. This was the message that our president, George Simeon, gave as well, and that's why he was accused of being pro-Russian. He is not pro-Russian. Neither
No,
is Călin Georgescu a Kremlin
no.
supporter or a Putinist. But these are labels that the others, the opponents, the progressists are trying to apply on us because we want peace. We don't want this war to continue. In the Senate, I have opposed, and George Simeon has opposed, as president of the party, as a member of the Chamber of Deputies in the parliament. He has also always opposed the war in Ukraine, not because we are pro Putin, but because this war is going on for almost 3 years. Incredible amounts of money have been poured into this war by
And
Europe,
nobody knows what
by
it is.
America, by Europe, by Romania as well, and it's like a bucket which is broken. So you keep pouring, and the water goes out. So this is what we have been doing for years. For 3 years, we have been pouring billions and billions and ammunition and weapons to Ukraine in a war that is, it looks like it's already lost, but it's not over, and people are dying every day. Thousands of people are dying, and tens of thousands, for a lost cause, because it is impossible to fight an enemy which is so much stronger. Ukraine has apparently lost the battle in Kursk. The Kursk region in Russia
And the Don's
apparently is has been
They are
lost,
they are getting
and in
pounded by
this
artillery.
context, yeah, the Kursk region is lost, and the front in Ukraine is advancing. The Russians are advancing in Ukraine, and may I salute General Kelaru, who is also our senator. Hello, General.
Hello, how are you?
Welcome, welcome. We have a
Excuse me
podcast with
for
an
my
American
enforced
veteran.
introduction here. I don't know which way you are
Ron
speaking.
Lair is an American veteran
Uh-huh.
who lives in
yes,
Brasov in
uh,
Romania.
Now,
His
you have
family
time.
are living in Brasov.
Brashov.
Yes, say
Yes, you have
hello,
some
Ron. Say
general.
hello to General Kelaru.
Are you here in Romania now? I didn't
I'm in.
listen to you.
In
Ah,
Brasov.
it's in your.
In Brasov. In Brasov.
I didn't listen to him.
Sorry.
My son took a picture with you at a conference. We
In
have
Brasov.
met
V-ați întâlnit, zice. You met.
Yes, I recognize you.
at
It's
the
come.
house
It's
party.
it's a little quite difficult, but I recognize you because you're very famous, and even we are handsome people.
Very
All
good. Thank you.
right. Yes.
General was head of the Romanian chief of staff of the
Yeah.
army, and
Uh,
he's
much respect.
also one strong supporter of peace. And
Absolutely.
If
Anyone who's been
you heard
aboard.
my if you have my speech from Budapest now,
Okay.
during the European Parliamentary Assembly,
Okay.
and I asked very strongly and severely, why you discuss more than 2 days only about the war? Where are the peacekeepers? Where are the peacemakers? Where are the people protectors? Is it time to discuss about what the God gave us as a huge and unreplaceable gift? The most expensive value in the world is the peace. For it is necessary to pay as much as needed. But except one single, well, I resume with a single exception, the price to not be the freedom itself. This is our belief.
What would
Benjamin
If I would
Franklin.
say,
Thank you,
I
General.
salute
Thank
you,
you.
excuse
Thank you,
me for
General.
interrupting,
Thank
and
you
I
very
can
much.
congratulate you for your mandate,
Thank you. It's an
the
honor.
new senator,
Thank you.
and
It's an
maybe we
honor
will
to
work
have.
together as good as possible.
It's an honor to have you here, General.
Peace, health, and freedom.
Absolutely, sir.
Doamne ajută. God help us.
That's a great
It was,
encounter right there. We have people,
yes, it
faithful
was,
people from the military. The military all over the
yes,
world
man.
is a great institution, right?
Right.
It's a wonderful profession, but it's really horrible when you have to do your job.
That's why we need
General,
Christian people in the military, because if we wouldn't have Christian
yes.
people, then it would really be a massacre.
I just want to explain. We are in the Senate. This is our group in the Romanian Parliament in the Senate, and this is my office. But this is a great room, a big room, and the general just walked in because he is a senator now in our in the Parliament. So uh, we are all colleagues here, and we come to see each other in our offices. This is why. Also, President George Simeon walked in a bit earlier. He was in a hurry, and this is why the general came in. It was totally unplanned. It was just by coincidence. But the
It's
message
God.
that he gave, yeah, it's the message of peace. And just to finish this idea, we have been paying billions, and both the general and myself, we have been opposing the continuation of this continuous aid and this support, which cost Europe billions and billions, and it's exhausting Europe, it's exhausting America, it's exhausting Romania. Our economies are not doing well because of that, and peace is always better for prosperity of the people, for the benefit of the economy, doing good business, being in good terms with everyone. That's why we want peace. We don't want our children to go and die in the war.
Absolutely. God bless. And
So this is our message, and this is why we believe Călin Georgescu becoming the Romanian president would promote the cause of peace. This is what we hope. This is what we want. Whereas the other candidate is and has already publicly said that she's going to support the war in Ukraine, and this should go on until the final victory. Well, there can be no final victory of Ukraine
yeah,
because
I
it's
was
not
just going to say,
it's very unequal. The level is very unequal.
I remember
well,
in 1943, Goebbels was saying his speech of final victory. I think if we do not if we continue with but thank God we have Trump and we don't have to continue with the progressist mindset. But if that would have been the case and Madame Progressist would have been elected in Washington, I think it would have ended up just like Germany ended up in 1945 in a way, right?
well, and ironically, during the last days of administration, um, the occupant of the White House, I refuse to call him the P word, is handing out cash as fast as he can before Trump can take office. I mean, he's paying out billions, 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 billions. before Trump can come in and stop this outpour of aid and promotion of a conflict that there's never going to be a clear winner. I mean, it's a war of attrition, and obviously with their population, their size, and their strength, eventually Russia will come out victorious. But at what cost? I mean, is it going to fracture the entire globe before we finally wake up and stop promoting this terrible conflict?
Millions of human lives. Yes, that would have been the price.
Now, let me ask you. We we have a rumor that Brad Parscale, the campaign manager of Donald Trump, might come over to Romania, to Bucharest, maybe tomorrow or something like that. Uh, what would that mean as a message of support for Călin Georgescu on behalf of Donald Trump?
It's a very
If,
important
if
message,
he
and
came here.
it's telling the Romanian people, just like I'm sitting here today, just like the new Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert Candy Jr., they coming to Romania to garner support for candidate Georgescu is extremely important for the relationship between the United States and Romania, because as a Christian conservative nation working with another Christian conservative nation, you can accomplish anything. But when you put a far left radical into an office like the presidency, I mean, we dodged a bullet with Kamala Harris and her far left agenda. The Romanian people really have to think about this and think about it really hard. It doesn't matter whether you care what's going on in the United States or not. This is for the Romanian people. Working with the U.S. is beneficial.
There is another idea I want to ask you about. Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation. Now, we know Heritage Foundation is a conservative Christian foundation in America. We would like to have good relations with the Heritage Foundations. Me, as a member of the Romanian Parliament, I would strongly support such a relationship. I would be happy and honored to be in contact with the Heritage Foundation. And can you tell us a few more things about the Heritage Foundation and about Project 2025?
Well, being a member of the Heritage Foundation for the last 20 plus years, and I'm very proud to say that, it's a extremely conservative Christian, uh, individual freedom, anti abortion, anti progressive group. It's a think tank, so they have experts in every field. And I've been in contact with them, and I'm working right now with my dear friend, the senator, to bring a delegation from the Heritage Foundation to the Romanian Parliament to kind of share ideas about how to approach things as far as the conservative nature, and how to build a coalition of Christians that will recognize and stand up, no longer be silent and deal with the progressives, but stand up and say, this is wrong. We're not going to deal with it anymore.
Christian nationalists in America, in the United States, and in Romania. What links us together, really, I think, is that we both deal with a lot of censorship, and I've heard that about Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation. The left is censoring, and we see that with Călin Georgescu right now. The left is using anything in the book to censor Călin Georgescu, and I think this is very important to always be as active in the media as possible, because Călin Georgescu used the social media he prevented this censorship by a lot of volunteers and accounts posting from a lot of accounts, so the leftists cannot censor us all, we can say. I've seen this is also what Heritage Foundation is doing on social media, and I think this is how our, right, in Romania, this is how our entered the parliament with very good social media strategy and fighting this censorship. Can you tell us something, Ron, about this censorship? Why is it so bad? Why the left uses this censorship with the televisions, lies, and they just have smear campaigns, huge smear campaigns, targeted all at the head of Călin Georgescu, exactly like it had with Donald Trump,
Donald
right?
Trump. Absolutely. And the reason that this is so popular is just like you were talking about Joseph Goebbels. Blame your enemy for what you're doing. And that's how the left operates. They silence the opposition, blame the other side for everything they're doing, and basically dominate the mass media so that they can get their message across and silence others. As a member of the Heritage Foundation for 20 plus years, it really troubled me when the Southern Poverty Law Center, a extreme leftist group, labeled the Heritage Foundation, a Christian organization, a terrorist group. And I was really shocked. How could you even say this about a group that honors life, respects individual freedom, and does so much to advance freedom and liberty, and call them a terrorist group? But it's what the left does. It's how the left operates. As long as they can, label you to instill fear in the general public, because most people don't do their research. I'm an exception. I do. I look into everything. I don't believe anything anyone tells me. I read, I look for it, I find out for myself. Even when I give lectures, I tell the audience directly to them, don't just believe what I tell you. Go find out for yourself. Do the research. Călin Georgescu is nothing like the media is painting him to be. I feel so bad for the man right now because, according to a friend of mine, he had so many death threats that he had to be interviewed from his home. What kind of people are so violent and just one-sided that they fear someone who is a devout Christian and just wants to make their country better, that they threaten to kill them? I'll never understand that.
You're a Christian, Ron.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you tell us, because we are all Christians, all three of us, and I'm a theologian, I'm also a practicing Christian, and I'm very happy to see an American Christian coming to live in Romania. Can you tell us more about your Christian life, your Christian family? I think your son, Noah, is also raised by you and your wife as a Christian. And
Yes.
how do you feel as Christians, or how, let me put it differently, how do you think the Christians in America feel, or did feel, or still feel in an America which is invaded by progressist ideology? And why do you think your family and your son can be raised here as a Christian in a country as Romania, which is still faithful to its Christian roots? And in this connection, what do you think about Europe and the fact that Europe is losing or has been losing its Christian tradition and identity, and even refused to acknowledge this identity in the constitutional treaty that was uh, given to Europe?
Well, and you're right. And one of the things that American Christians have finally stood up and said is that, judging by the last election, the leftists are saying it was a fluke. I believe it was a mandate. I believe it was a statement by true believers that we don't want this anymore. We're tired of feeling uncomfortable. We're tired of the attack on Christianity. And that's exactly, Kamala Harris herself said it at a rally. You're at the wrong rally. And that's exactly what the progressives are telling us. We don't want you. We don't care for you. We don't like you.
So for people
And
to understand, there were some Christians at the Democrat rally, and they were
yeah,
chanting some Christian
Christ
songs,
is
something
king.
like that. Yes, and the nominee, right, Kamala Harris, she told them that they are not welcome there.
No, yes, exactly. That the progressives do not want to welcome Christianity. Our beliefs
By the way,
scare them.
let me interrupt for a second. Do you know that the progressist rival and opponent of Călin Georgescu has been called the Kamala of Romania?
No, I didn't, but it's
Yes,
true.
she has
I've
been.
looked in her
Yeah.
past. I've looked into her policies. Again, I do my research. I don't like to speak without knowing what I'm talking about. And she is a true leftist. She is an LGBT supporter. And I'm not a person that would go out and harm people for their behavior. But I don't believe it belongs in certain settings. It definitely does not belong in schools. And that's what we're trying to fight in the US right now is, you know, the transgender ideology, the LGBT ideology are all being put into elementary school. And people like Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, is one of the very few people that have put their foot down and said, okay, no more, we're done. And passed a law that says you can't discuss any form of sexuality with children under like 9 years old. What reason would you have? And this is the thing between Christians and progressives. Progressives are just anything goes, and they want to protect the most deviant members of our society.
And I
And
think we should give more independence to the family, to the father, right, rather than to a school teacher.
absolutely, the parental rights should always come before the school system. And the way I look at it, I, I'm not an American. You're not a Romanian. We're Christian brothers. That's all. Under God, we are seen exactly the same. And this is why I enjoy and I feel so comfortable in this country is because my son, he quotes, my son is so, you know, very devout Christian now that he'll quote scripture and verse. I can't even do that. I'm 56 years old. So, this is what we need to teach our young people to have the values, to look to our Savior for answers, not to progressives, not to transgender ideology. I mean, you look at places like Canada where misgendering someone is a criminal offense. Who's the true victim there? It's people like myself, like you, Mihai, and like my dear friend, the senator. I mean, we're the victims because we cannot express ourselves in a nation like Canada, and that's coming over here to Europe. That the people that you can't criticize are the people that rule you. And so, progressives like Angela Merkel bringing in hundreds of thousands, millions of Muslims into Germany. The last time I looked at statistics in Germany, these people came in 2016. It was a mass migration of Islamists, well over a million. Only 36% are employed. Why are you bringing more and more people who are dependent on government for day-to-day life into your country? And and now they want to ban the Conservative Party in Germany. I mean, I suppose they're going back to their old ways.
And let's not
But
forget, some of the immigrants were former Al Qaeda affiliated from Syria, for example. And now we have a war in Syria where former Al Qaeda, Hayat Tahrir al Sham, is killing Orthodox people and Catholics in Syria. And yeah, we have some of those people. They are already here in Europe. I think it's even worse than the immigration problem of America, right? Because you have your Mexicans, you have your You're Latin Americans, but here it's worse.
Middle Eastern and North African people are flying to Mexico to walk across the border,
Mm,
and we don't know who they are. Nobody knows who they are.
yeah.
It's Arabs walking across the United States border, unvetted, unknown, even who they are, and they're disappearing in the country, and we don't keep track of them. So it's it's really unknown what the problem in the United States will be with the Islamic terrorists, with the Islamic extremists, because
Now let
when
me
they fled
let me
Mexico,
ask.
what?
Let
Yes,
me
sir.
let me wonder. Allow me to wonder and to ask what you think about the future of the world order. We know that there is a very serious concern about the immigration issue, about the way that the progressives want the world to look in the future, to look like. In Romania, we're beginning to have this immigration problem. We are beginning to have thousands and thousands of immigrants from Asia, but it's just
Yeah,
the beginning. And for the
mostly Sri
moment,
Lanka.
it's not a serious problem, but it might become a serious problem. And well, we believe that we should encourage two things. We should encourage fertility rate and birth rate for the Romanian people. We should encourage demographic growth by encouraging fertility and helping families to give birth and to raise children,
Yes.
and to help the families support the mothers, support the parents in giving birth to more children. And the
Well,
second
Hungary is
thing
already
we
doing
want,
that.
who?
Hungary is
Yeah,
already
Hungary.
doing that.
Yeah.
They've realized that
Hungary is
that
doing
is a
that. Yes,
problem, and
yes,
we must do
yes.
this
And we
for the
should take their
survival.
example. We should take
Yeah,
their example. And
absolutely.
the second solution is to try to promote the homecoming of the Romanian diaspora.
I think
We
we can
have
Yes.
do that by
7 or 8 million people in the diaspora. We have 8 million Romanians leaving the country. They have left the country because they had no jobs. So we need to create jobs so we can attract the Romanians from abroad to come back to their country.
I think the
Now,
message of Donald Trump and of Călin Georgescu, they are both for reindustrialization. Because I think one of the problems why, for example, America doesn't produce as much in industry and as much ammunition with this war in Ukraine as well is because some countries are industrialized, like China, like Russia, but us, the West, and even here in Romania, we are no more industrialized countries. And I think it's sane to have better industrialized cities, of course, with a good rural and Christian rural area, but also an industrial Christian city, because we no more have that, and I think that's why we lost so many Romanians.
Um,
indeed, well, our has 20%, 19% in the elections last Sunday. We ranked second party in the country, in Romania, after the first one, the Social Democrats. And so we grew from 9-10% to 19-20%. It's a double percentage. And indeed, the policy of our party and of George Simeon, its president, is reindustrialization. As you said, Mihai, very correctly. Romania has become disindustrialized. Europe has become disindustrialized, and we need to have a reindustrialization policy. And Donald Trump is doing the same, and Călin Georgescu will and said wants to do the same thing. And indeed, this is our message. So basically, our message is to support in next elections this Sunday, to support the election of a nationalist, sovereignist, Christian um, uh, president candidate, which is Călin Georgescu, because this is the only chance we have to return to normality. We want normality. We want to say very clearly we are not extremists, we are not
No,
fascists, we are not homophobes, we are just normal people who want to have normality, normal family between a man and a woman. There is nothing hateful about this message, but we want to keep our traditional institutions. The family is not something between a man and a woman, between two persons, a very private thing, and only that. The family is an institution, it has an impact on
it's the most
society.
basic social institution.
Yes, and the way you define the family has relevance for the whole of society. So it's not just a private matter. It is a private matter indeed between two people, but is a social issue and it concerns the entire society, how you define this family. If you try to define it as a union between a man, a cat, and a tree, that's not a family anymore. You destroy the definition of the family. A man, a cat, and a tree cannot make up a family. So it's very important how you define this institution because it has relevance for the social tissue as a whole, for the morality, for the social relations, human relations, and eventually it has an impact on the whole of the society. So our message is not extremist, it is not fascist, it is not in any way full of hate, because they're trying to say this is hate speech. No, it is
Terrible.
not hate speech. It's not hate speech.
Terrible.
It is just normality. We want normality. We want natural relations. We want peace. We want love in society. We want to promote the family, the birth of children, and I'm very happy that an American friend like Ron Lair is here, Major Ron is saying the same thing. So this is not just let's say some kind of marginal extremist message. It is a message of friendship, a message of love between
Of brotherhood,
Christians
of
and
Christians.
of
A
brotherhood.
brotherhood.
Yes,
I think in
yes,
the
Yes.
Ron.
end,
So I'm very grateful.
I think in the
I'm very
end,
grateful for that.
to sum it up, in the end, we are free Christian men right here, and it's sad to see that masculinity and Christian masculinity has been defamed in the West so much that now everyone talks about toxic masculinity and how it's not good to be a man. But the reality is that a Christian man doesn't hate, a Christian man protects, but he's also strong. And for a Christian man to be strong is not a bad thing. Because if we wouldn't have Christian men like Ron, or as we have firefighters, right? As we have policemen, if we wouldn't have or politicians, if we wouldn't have strong Christian men, then we would have evil people. And I think also they are childish in a way, because exactly as I said, if the war isn't handled by Christian men, then it's going to be more of a disaster than it already is. And everything that it has been done by the progressists in Romania, we had less than a year, but we have some time with the progressists in the government, and you had 4 years of progressivism, and it was bad. It was very bad. So I think this is the best message for our audience. If we don't have a Christian masculinity, then we end up with evil and with essentially what it is, a childish response, because we have seen all these progressists, all that they do, they go in the streets, they cry no more fascism, they cry their cry, but they don't do anything to improve our country, right?
Okay. If I could just add two small points, and then you know, first off, the progressives, they want to destroy the warrior class, and the fact is that European Christians have been a warrior class for over 1,000 years, and that is why Europe, the United States, the West has become the civilization that it is today. It wasn't because of progressives that sat back and watched. It's because of the men of action. What's the saying that evil prevails because good men do nothing? And or I'm obviously butchering it, but that's the point. All it takes for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing, and that's what the left wants. The globalists, the leftists. In addition, the reason for that is because they don't want citizens; they want subjects, and that's how they operate. That's what they do. If you look, I forget which summer it was, but I remember watching it every day, every day, every day. The leftists, the liberals were on the streets in the United States, burning buildings, turning over cars and setting them on fire, breaking into businesses and looting. Not Christian conservatives. We weren't doing that. We were watching it unfold on the news by the liberal faction in the United States, in Missouri, in California, in Wisconsin.
We don't
and
want that in Romania. Yeah,
they,
I think it's safe to say.
the fact is, it's the left that are the violent ones, not the Christian right. And people get fooled every single day into believing that we're such fascists, that we're such evildoers. But all I want is a nice place for my son to grow up and be free enough to have a family, earn a living, and be a functioning and contributing member of society. That's all, nothing more. And
As Donald Trump said, we stand on the shoulders of great men. It were great men,
absolutely,
the great men of the American Revolution, right? The great men of all the Romanian wars that we have been through, so that our people still exist today. Because we are a people of almost 2,000 years, right? I should have asked
right.
General Kelar, who knew even better. But we are survivors. And if we wouldn't be manly, if we wouldn't be Christian, also, that's very important, then we wouldn't have survived, not only survived, but survived with the civilization, with all the good that we have in this civilization, and that we want for our children, that we want for our grandchildren. That if we would have progressivism in Romania, and this is just the beginning, there will be a time when Romania will look like America did between 2020 and 2024, right? I think
Absolutely.
that's a
And
horror picture. That's no Romanian would want what happened to America. Let's not forget what happened just some years ago, right?
well, ironically, I was a commissioned officer in the United States Army when homosexuality was completely banned. Then during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Then during you can be openly as gay as you want. You know what happened? Nothing. Nothing changed. The Army regulations don't allow for any form of expression of an ideology. You can't wear anything on your uniform. You can't put bumper stickers on your car. So all these alleged victories that the left keeps having, they're hollow victories. And all they want to do is garner attention. And the more attention we give them, the more they eat it up. And it's about time that, and I've told my friends and my colleagues, American, Romanian, it doesn't matter. I've been welcomed into this country. I feel very comfortable. The people of this country have been fantastic to me as an immigrant. I am an immigrant, and I go to the immigration office every year, and I pay my fees. I put in my application. I do my part for the privilege of living in this country. And what Romania needs, what the Romanian people need, are improvements to infrastructure, highways, bridges, schools that educate, not indoctrinate. More investment in schools, hospitals. I know my friend, the senator's party, sponsored a mobile hospital because the progressives would not allow them to build a hospital. So to get around that, and which was extremely clever, and I really, really respect the Our Party for doing this, they brought doctors and nurses and in a mobile hospital to go around and treat people. Now, this is what a Christian conservative will do for Romania, a man like Georgescu. And because he's so needed today to, as the senator said, turn things around, to stop this infection, this, as the senator said, this virus from continuing to eat away at such a wonderful country, that let's work together across an ocean to make things better for Romanians, to bring Romanians back to their homeland, to encourage the people of Romania and around Europe to increase their birth rate so they don't replace you with Islamists or, Africans. It's just, we're in a survival mode now as far as Christianity and conservatism. And if we don't do something quick, fast, and in a hurry, it'll be too late to turn around eventually.
Indeed, Ron, you're right. This is a survival mode, and we hope to have a resurrection of the American people and the resurrection of the Romanian people. We are now at a crucial point. I think America is on the brink of resurrection and a recovery,
So,
a great revival. I think Trump is standing for a revival of the American people and of the faith in America. And I believe, and I'm not the only one to believe that, Romania is also on the brink of a revival. The Romanian people is waking up. We see all over the Romanians are waking up. They have now regained confidence in democracy, regained confidence in the power of their own vote. And this revival, hopefully to be accomplished with Călin Georgescu as a president, with our party becoming stronger and the nationalist parties, the sovereignist parties becoming even stronger. This is not only happening in Romania, but in other countries in Europe, as Mihai said. So the message, I think, is one of hope. We are witnessing this revival in America, in Romania, as sister nations. Romania is and America are strategic partners and allies, and we want this strategic partnership between Romania and America to go on and to become even stronger with a conservative America, with a Christian America, with Donald Trump's America, with the sovereignist America, with America great again, because America is a great nation, and I'm an admirer of American culture, civilization, and American nation as a whole, and its great history. And this partnership, this friendship should go on. And I'm very happy and proud and grateful to have such a good friend as Major Ron Lair. Thank you,
thank you so
Ron.
much.
Thank you very much. It's an honor and a privilege. Thank you, Mihai, as well, for your help
Christ
and
is
support.
king.
You are young,
As Ron
right?
said, Christ is king. Let's not forget
Yes,
that.
Yes,
indeed.
He's the
you are
most
young,
Well,
important.
and your generation is the young generation. So you are helping the message of the three of us reach the young people. We love the young people, and we want the young people uh, to be empowered and to be um, educated and to become aware of the great values of our traditions, the American and the Romanian tradition.